On this episode of Leadership and Loyalty Tips for Executives, we're going to look at the battle between authentic, familiar, and what's right, and how that battle will not only determine your next president of the United States, but also how you lead and the results that you get. Welcome to Leadership and Loyalty Tips for Executives, part of the Full Monty Leadership Series. I'm your host, Dov Baron, founder of Full Monty Leadership. If you're a new listener or viewer, thank you for joining us. Strap yourself in. We're about to go full Monty. If you're a regular, big thank you to you for making us the #1 podcast for Fortune 500 listeners, human resources, family business, and next-gen leadership, and consistently keeping us at the top in leadership and business podcasts. Thank you for sharing the show with everybody that you know. Remember, we always need your help to stay relevant. So get yourself over to iTunes, rate, review, and subscribe to the show. Welcome. All right, as I said, today's show, what we're going to be talking about is the battle between authentic, what's right, and what's familiar. And I'm going to use the analogy, because it's so prevalent right now, of the U.S. Presidency, the run-up to that, and what's going on. It's pretty clear in leadership, generally, not just politically, but generally, that people are, generally speaking, a bit tired of the old familiar. You know, there's the usual fare is not doing it. And it's interesting because when you look at the main candidate, the head candidate for the GOP, for the Republican Party, you've got Donald Trump. And the main leader now for the Democratic Party is Bernie Sanders. And you look at those two, and they are not the usual fare. On the other hand, you have Hillary Clinton, who very much is a political animal. She is politics as usual. You know, whether you like her or dislike her, whether you believe her or don't believe her, whatever it is, you pretty much know she's from the world of politics. She's been in the world of politics. And some would say that's great. You know, she's got a lot of experience. And that's what she is. She's the politics as usual. On the other side, you've got many of the people running in the primaries for the Republican Party who are politicians. They've been politicians for a long, long time. They've been governors. They've done all kinds of things. And you look at them and you see what they've got going on. So like, for instance, Ted Cruz. Now, he's interesting because with Hillary, you've got what is familiar. With Ted Cruz, you've got what is, quote, in quotes, right. You know, it's about guns and keeping the Second Amendment, and it's about Jesus, and it's about religion, and it's about, you know, bomb the hell out of anybody who disagrees with us. You know, it's right if you are hardcore, right-wing, radical, you know, politics, if that's your thing. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong, I'm just saying that you know, he says the right things for that. Hillary is very much, you know, you can see that she's moved with the times. Some would say she's evolved. Others would say she's flip-flopped. But it's interesting to me because it's politics as usual. And then we come to Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump. Donald Trump, as you may or may not know, at the beginning of January, as I'm recording this, you know, you may be listening to it at a later date. You may be listening to it when he's the president or not, or ran out for the president. But it's interesting because he was recently interviewed and said on an interview that he felt like he could walk out onto Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody dead and not lose support. Wow. Wow. Now, at one level of that, you go, what incredible arrogance. Just unbelievable arrogance that he's beyond the law. That personally, for me, worries the hell out of me for a leader who thinks it's beyond the law. However, he's seen as authentic because he, quote, speaks his mind. And in many ways, we think that that's what authenticity means. We think that authenticity means that somebody just saying whatever's at the top of mind. But authenticity, real authenticity, has to have at least its hand in the glove of emotional intelligence. It has to have the understanding of how to be with people and how to work with people, and that it's not a dictatorship or fascism or any of those things. That I actually care about the people that I'm here to serve. And so that statement of I can go out and I could shoot somebody dead and not lose support, that's very interesting. To me, that's what we call red knight. It's like I will find a cause and I will fight to the death. And I see this in places like in ISIS. I'm going to fight for this cause. Do I understand it? Not particularly. Am I well educated about it? Not particularly, but I don't want things to be the same and I'm going to do something else. And that's created many revolutions, and most of which have been extremely destructive. You think about Pol Pot in Cambodia, you think about Ho Chi Minh in Vietnam, you think about even Castro in Cuba, you think any of these things, it was change for the sake of change without the forethought of where we're going next. Revolution, I think, is an important part of our evolution, but constructive evolution is very different than destructive evolution for the sake of destruction, for the sake of making it different. So he's got this red knight about him that just wants to fight, and he's picking fights. You hear him saying these racist things that are clearly picking fights, but that also attracts people who he's voicing what it is that they feel but don't feel like they're allowed to say. But more than that, it gives a place to point the finger. It gives a place to say, they're wrong, we're right. This is how we solve the problem. And then you got Bernie Sanders, who again is not politics as usual. It's quite different, in fact. He's coming at it from a very different place. It's non-conventional, but he's more white knight in that he wants to save the working class. He wants to save even the middle class, but certainly the working class. And that he's not willing to do politics as usual. And he's seen as authentic as well. So it's a very interesting thing for me that both these characters are seen as authentic. However, is there compassion? Is there that emotional intelligence? This is your question for you to ask yourself, not me asking you, and not even giving my opinion, but asking yourself, is there compassion? Do I care about something bigger than just this outcome? Because I've spoke about this in some of the odd podcasts. If we're focused on the goal without understanding the consequences, the potential backlash, or the fallout of something, we end up being rather ruthless, and we lack empathy and compassion. And yes, we sometimes need to make decisions that don't get us all lifted on the shoulders of everybody. And sometimes those are hard decisions and tough. But you have to know whether you're coming from a place of compassion and empathy. So think about those four characters. Cruz being the one who was about it being right and, quote, righteous. Then you've got Hillary, the familiar, politics as usual. It's kind of a bit backhanded. There's not many things you trust, but, she understands politics. She gets how it works. She knows how to be in the room with those other world leaders. Oh, do you want to go down that road? Then you've got Bernie, and he's like, he's fairly radical. This democratic socialism, socialist democrat. What does that mean? Well, a lot of people, that scares the crap out of them. Is he going to give, is he going to be the Robin Hood who redistributes? And, will that have the wealthy exiting the country and running off to havens to open businesses in different countries and leaving America behind? And, is that what's going to happen if you raise the taxes on the wealthy? Because we saw that before. That happened back in the UK in the 70s. Many of the very wealthy left when the tax went to 50%. It's another thing to consider. And then you got Trump. This, the red knight. The guy is like, he's pissing people off, and he wants to piss people off. He's actually looking for a fight. But he's promising to make changes, and you can see it's not going to be politics as usual. So every one of these things, you will notice in any one of them that you'll have a pull to those four pieces: right, familiar, authentic with the white knight, or authentic with the red knight. And whatever you're pulled to, here's what I would suggest to you. That's more than likely your leadership style. So if you want to look at where this might go in a political world, take a look at your leadership. And once you've identified, yeah, I definitely fit more into the right/righteous, or I definitely fit more into the let's keep things familiar, same, let's not change things around too much. I'm more of a red knight. I don't mind pissing everybody off. I'm going to do what's right, but I'm not going to be particularly compassionate about because I'm fighting for something without too much consideration. And, I have had a few complaints that maybe I'm not emotionally intelligent enough. Or on the other hand, I'm very wanting to make peace with everybody, wanting to be the savior and the rescuer of the underdog. And each one of those has consequences. And if you look at the consequences of that, and I promise you, every single one of them has positive and negative consequences. But when you look at that in your own life, and this is going to take courage, but this is a podcast for real leaders, authentic leaders who are really willing to step up and create loyalty. So when you look at that, and you look at the consequences, negative and positive, then that's going to give you a view of the kind of president you might be having in the next election. Of course, presuming that those 4 people are there close to the end. It's interesting for you to look at and think about for yourself. The familiar, the righteous, the authentic with the reds, meaning with the fierceness and the anger, or the authentic with the white and the savior/compassion. Be interesting for you to look at in your leadership. So that's my challenge to you today on this leadership and loyalty tip for executives. I want to thank you for joining us. As I said, my name is Dov Baron, founder of Full Monty Leadership. You can find out more about me, about what it is that I do with organizations, with family businesses, with leadership, and find out about me mentoring you, if I possibly can, in any way to serve you. Reach out to me through fullmontyleadership.com. Remember to get yourself over to iTunes, rate, review, and leave your comments on there. It'd be great to have you. Remember to share the show with everybody you know. Until next time, stay curious, my friends. Stay curious.